Hello friends and welcome back. My name is Alyssa and today we are going to be going over everything that I read in the month of March. I'm bringing you this video this week because next week I will be in Oregon visiting my bestie and I'm super excited about that. My daughter will be with me. We're making it a cute little trip. We're going to spend our spring break out there. It'll be our first time going to Oregon, which is nice, and it'll be the first time I've seen my best friend, and I think the last time I saw her was 2020, around then, so it's been like 5-6 years since we last seen each other in person, so definitely looking forward to that. I am also super nervous filming in this general area because the other night there was a spider like this big, like that big, in this general area, and I did not get him. Like I tried to get him and it got away. So I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried about filming in this corner because I swear if he pops up while I'm moving around, I'm going to be a little upset. So anyways, let's talk about what I read in March. So as you guys know, I was doing the middle grade readathon that was happening, and I took part. I completed all 5 prompts. I'm actually very, very proud of myself for that because the last couple of years that I have tried to take part in a readathon or a challenge or anything like that, I fail after the first book. And I think it's because like a lot of them are really big. A lot of them are always like, here's 25 prompts, fill them all out. And it's like, that's a lot. This one was easy. It was just 5 prompts. 5 simple little prompts, which made it obtainable, without it feeling overwhelming at the same time. So definitely appreciate the hosts for making this so simple and approachable. I love that. I absolutely love that. And then it allowed me to get through a couple more books that are still on my middle grade TBR that I own. So let's go ahead and let's start talking about them. So gratefully, I had nothing that I DNF'd. Oh, I also read one adult book, so we will talk about that one too. But I did not DNF anything this month, so that's a super big positive, no DNFs. And nothing below a 3-star, which is also really good, which really nice, So let's start with our 3 stars. And the first one up on that is The List of Unspeakable Fears by J. Casper Kramer. This one it's not so much a spooky book. It was sold, when I picked it up at Barnes & Noble, it was around October and it was on the spooky table. It's not really a spooky story. It has some spooky elements in it, but it's really about this little girl who has this fear of everything potentially going wrong because she has lost her father and she has still not come to terms with that. But you also find out how her father dies and her involvement in that, and how it like affected her mindset and her trajectory and everything. And her mother remarries, and she remarries a doctor on this island where they're sending everybody who get sick, the plague and stuff like that, because this happens during the Typhoid Mary. So it happens during the typhoid plague and everything that was going on, and Typhoid Mary does make an appearance in the book. Quite interesting. So you just kind of like follow her and her being suspicious of her new stepfather, thinking he's like this mass murderer, and she's trying to be a detective, and she's trying to like prove to her mom that he's unsafe and that he's gonna kill them. And you end up finding out his backstory, which is supremely traumatic, and just it's more so just about the horrors of real life and how it can affect people. It's very good. I gave it a 3 just because it is very, very slow, and it takes like the first like 100 and something pages to really start to pick up, and it doesn't really start to become fully interesting until like the end, because that buildup just takes so long. And as like a kid's book, like you don't want your buildup to take up half of the book because you're gonna lose a kid. So yeah, very good book, touches on some very heavy topics, but just a little slow. Then we have North or Be Eaten by Andrew Peterson. This is book 2 in the Wingfeather saga. Again, it's just the the Christian belief stuff is very heavy in this one. And then the still not a fan of the grandfather. Still not found out some more stuff about grandfather and was just kind of like, this also pushes the idea that if you've done something wrong and horrible, all you have to do is say sorry. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Sometimes there has to be consequences for the actions that you've done. Saying sorry is not enough. And I don't like that point of view. I don't like that idea that to teach kids to just say I'm sorry is the solution to everything, because it's not. Sister also kind of still has no purpose in the story, which is kind of frustrating. She's a song maiden, like we know that much about her. And she has a couple of moments where something happens, but like we still haven't like really established what her purpose is in the grand scheme of everything. And she's still honestly referred to a lot by her disability, which is again very frustrating because a person is more than their disability. Eldest brother, I feel, accepted his position as throne warden way too quickly for a boy who wants to go out, explore the world, see and travel and everything. For him to immediately come to terms with, yep, this is my future, I have to protect my brother for the rest of my life, just felt a little out of place. And so I was kind of annoyed about that as well. And then the younger brother at least has some struggles about what his future is supposed to be and everything. It did actually feel a little repetitive as the story was going on. It felt like a lot of the same scenes kept happening over and over again. So yeah, I'm still struggling very much with this. I do really wish it was better. I'm gonna keep going. I have the whole set. I'm gonna keep going. Gonna keep hoping that something will just really, really jump out. But right now, we're sitting at 2 books where I think the first one I gave 2 stars to, and this one a 3. So it's gotta really pick up in the next couple of books. Okay, the next one I read was after I finished all of my prompts, and it was actually one of my digital books, and that was called The Better to Eat You With by Taylor K. Maja. And apologies if I mispronounced any of those names. But this one, it was, again, I picked it up because it was like advertised as like this spooky, scary story. There's a monster attacking the summer homes of the families that are at this location. But the story actually is more so about a little girl and her eating disability. Not an eating disability, but her eating struggles. She has issues around food and eating because her mother has an issue. One of the things I liked about the story was that it actually did paint the mother as being the villain in this story because of her pushing her ideas onto the child. Kind of like overshadowing and forcing the child to starve herself or overeat. I will say one of the elements that did bother me was the author's idea of how quickly weight loss can happen on a girl versus how quickly she can gain it. It was happening just too quickly. Like as a girl, I know how quickly our weight can fluctuate, but the author was basically like, oh, within a week she was thin in bones and you could see her collarbones, and then in 2 days she was super fat and you couldn't see them anymore. And it was kind of like, whoa, buddy, that's a little extreme. It's a little extreme. It doesn't happen that quickly. Like, come on now. It was just kind of like one of the things that did kind of bug me. I also kind of wish he had went just a little bit more hard on how destructive the mother's ideals were, and how, like, while the end doesn't have like this rainbows and butterflies ending, and you know, it is given a kind of a realistic ending, I do just kind of wish it was just more like aggressive with like getting the mom to understand. It was kind of like we have this one big conversation and now I understand what I've done wrong. Like, I just kind of wish that there was more to it, like more attempts to try and get her to understand, because when you're in the mindset of someone who has these eating disorders, like you have to like really, really try. You got to like break down those walls, and you got to try multiple times. It's not just going to take one big conversation. And then I do wish there was more just like the beasts that would appear and would attack the area that they were staying. I just kind of wish there was more information on how that was working. It just kind of felt very like it felt like it was a figment of this little girl's imagination, but at the same time it was actually happening. Like I don't know, there was just some kind of disconnect between how he was presenting it and how it was like appearing in the story. So that kind of bothered me a little bit. Like, it's a good story, and it's a good story for like girls to read, especially considering like a lot of girls do face eating disorders because society has ingrained in everybody's idea that women and girls should be stick thin and everything, but like you can achieve a certain lifestyle without endangering your health. But yeah, I just kind of feel like it could have been stronger. Last 3-star book is Lost on Doll Island by Cassandra Ramos Gomez. And this one, it was interesting. Like, I listened to the audiobook for this one. You follow a boy who just moves to Mexico because his parents divorced, and so he's living with some relatives until his mom can move out there. And he ends up on a field trip where they go to Doll Island, and there's this one special doll that can grant any wish, and so he wants to find that doll so that he can wish his parents back together and move back home to where all of his friends were. I think he originally lived in Texas. And so, he wants to just fix his life and everything. The story, like, when you hear it, you're like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. But it does, at times, it just felt over, like, I understand it's a middle grade book, and I understand that it's going to have jokes and everything that are geared towards kids, but I do feel that there is, like, a point where it can feel too silly and too juvenile for the content that's trying to be portrayed in the story. And so there was some times where it just felt too silly, and it like took away from the spookiness of the idea of this island covered in dolls, possible magic, and just creepiness going on. There was some ghost stuff that happens, and some spirits and everything, but because it had like this really low brow kind of humor going on, it kind of like detracted from the more heavier aspects of the story. Like, they didn't complement each other well, and they didn't weigh each other well. So that was kind of frustrating, and none of the characters really stood out, honestly. They just they felt like more of a character than they did as a character. So that was also kind of a letdown. So yeah, I'm not saying I would never read another book by her. I would have definitely check out some other stuff that she's got, because 3 stars isn't bad. It just didn't deliver like how I was hoping it would deliver, with like such an interesting title, Lost on Doll Island. Like, dolls are creepy. They're creepy. And so you want like a good, super creepy story. So I was a little sad that it kind of, for me. So now, next, let's go on to the 4 stars. And first up would be another one that I read digitally after I finished everything, and that is Gloam by Jack McKay. And this one gives very Coraline meets Series of Unfortunate Events kind of vibes. And I say that because you follow a group of siblings who have just moved into their grandma's house because grandma has passed away, and their mother had inherited it, but mother has passed away as well, and stepdad is the one who has decided to step up and keep all 4 of these kids. Like, first of all, that was such an interesting twist, okay? Like, can't even like really call it a twist. It was just such an interesting idea, like, to know that the stepfather of these kids was like, oh, well, their mom is passed away, so I guess they're now my kids. Like, I feel like in the real world, there's so many men that would be like, oh, my kid, bounce, kind of thing, So, like, in this world, in this story, this stepdad is like, I'm just doing my best. Like, mom's not here anymore. It's just me and these kids. Like, they're not even like his birth kids. Their real dad is like off in France or something, We never really get the full background story on what caused their parents to divorce. And the only thing we know about mom is that she was sick and she passed away. And so now the kids are left with stepdad, and stepdad stepped up, okay? But anyways, they move into grandma's home, and so some weird hijinks, like not hijinks, but like some weird spooky creepy things start happening in this house, and she's got all these talismans around the house to protect things, and the cat might be talking, the trees are talking, and then he hires a babysitter because he has to go to work and their kids, and the babysitter is what gives it those Coraline vibes, because she has very other mother vibe kind of thing, and she just kind of comes in, and she just, from the get-go, like the minute you meet her, you're like, she's evil, she is a bad character, but it's not like in a bad way where you can instantly tell. It was just like, it's like when the first time you meet other mother in Coraline, you're just kind of like, I know you're not a good one, I know you're not. That's the same vibes that the babysitter was giving. And so, yeah, so from there, like a bunch of different things happen, and the eldest sister is the one who's like, nope, don't trust her, don't trust her. The brother is like, what do you mean? She's so nice, she's amazing. And the twins are like off twinning, doing ridiculous things. 1 minute they're like, we like her, the next we're like, ew, we don't like her, because they're the youngest, so a bunch of stuff happens and everything. And when it does finally, like, everything come to a head and everything starts to figure out, the author does do a good wrap up of like everyone being like, oh, like, we're so sorry, big sister, that we didn't believe what you were saying, kind of thing, but yeah, it's very cute, very fun. It does a good job with creating that spooky-ish atmosphere without taking it too far, but also not making it too juvenile. It's like just fits perfectly in that middle grade spooky area, which I love. And then we have My Diary from the Edge of the World by Jodi Lynn Anderson. This one, it's more like a 3.54. Like, some days I'm like, oh yeah, that's a 4. Other days I'm like, it's like a 3.5. Like, it's so hard for me to figure out where I want this one to fall. And that is just due to the fact that on one hand, the book feels too long. But then when I think about the content of what's going on in the story, I'm like, okay, well, maybe the length makes sense. But basically, you follow this little girl where her whole family uproot their entire life to try to outrun a cloud that is there to take her little brother. And so they're trying to escape this. They're trying to find the extraordinary world. They live in a world where everything that is fantasy to us is real to them. And the extraordinary world is our world. The boring, the mundane, where none of that exists. There's no dragons, there's no fairies, there's no mermaids, no anything like that, but in their world, all of that exists. And so they're trying to escape this cloud, and they're traveling. The whole book is about traveling, and it just takes them to all these different places because they're trying to outrun this cloud while at the same time finding this place that they can 100% get away and everybody can survive. So the story is definitely about death, and it follows the idea of trying to escape the idea of death and seeing if you can, outrun it. And the ending brings up the idea that doesn't matter how hard you try to outrun something, some things are just inevitable. And I do remember seeing a review where they were like, is this book supposed to be like an allegory for suicide? And I definitely don't think that's what it is. I think it's more so just learning how to come to acceptance of, unfortunately, this is something that is unavoidable and it's going to happen, and we need to come to terms with that. I think that is more so the point of what Anderson was attempting to do with this book. So it has its fun little moments. It has its, its very emotional moments. There were 2 things that I wish were handled better. Like, there is a Sasquatch that ends up trailing along with the family, and I just feel like more could have been done with that. Like, it would have just been kind of fun. It just kind of is like this weird background thing that goes on. So I do kind of wish it was just a little bit more interesting to add that in. And then the other part would be the little boy that they essentially kidnap. He's a foster kid who runs away from his foster family, and he hides out in their caravan, and they just accept that. They don't say no. And so it was just like a weird element in the story. And I was just kind of like, that's just kidnapping. So yeah, I do kind of wish those 2 elements had been handled just a little bit differently, because there was just, I don't know, there was just kind of, one was lackluster and the other was, is that okay? I don't think that's an okay thing to do. Then the 2 5-stars, I just want to make clear that I'm leaving the adult book for after I get through all these middle grade books. It does fall under a different star rating, but I just want to get through all the middle grade stuff first. But the first one on my 5 stars is A Tale of Camelot, Mice of the Round Table by Julie Lung. This is the first in the series, and this was adorable. This was absolutely adorable. It's King Arthur meets Redwall. That's essentially what it is. You meet this little mouse who, you know, he wants to be a hero. He wants to do the right thing. And what's really cute is that, like, humans are present in this world. Like, that is something, like, while I have not read Redwall, I have watched the cartoon. And from what I've been able to gather is the humans don't exist in Redwall's world. At least not in the cartoon, they didn't. And this one, humans and the animals exist. They coexist together. And these mice, they live in the castle, and they had apparently made a pact with Merlin to help protect Camelot. And essentially they protect it from other rodents who get in to steal the food stores and eat away at, like, the fabric and the cloth and everything. So they protect Camelot in the small ways, and I think that's adorable. And they have a fight with the forest animals. There's, like, this feud with the forest animals, and they try to, you know, uphold the balance from their little tiny worlds. And what ends up happening is the creatures from the forest are like, hey, like, something bad is happening with us out here. But, like, both sides are, like, not wanting to believe each other because of all the years of hate that has happened between the two of them. But then the Norse show up, and they bring with them weasels, and these little weasels are, like, the true enemy, and they get in the way and everything. You know, and they have to band together to fight off this new invading force that has come back. And I just find it so incredibly adorable. This bear does make an appearance, and it is the most heartbreaking little storyline, okay? I did cry over that bear, just saying. But it's absolutely adorable. I will say the synopsis made it sound like the mouse, Caleb, was going to be working more with Galahad, who comes to Camelot as a young boy, but it doesn't really happen. There's a couple of moments where they have, like, an interaction with each other, but it wasn't as much as what I thought was, like, actually going to be, like, this mouse and this human boy working together. So that was a little bit of a letdown, but not enough to make me, like, bring the rating down, because I did still overall, like, just enjoy and love the heck out of this. Like, I think also part of it too is that, like, it's just a story that follows animals, and I just love the idea that, like, we protect Camelot by making sure other animals don't eat their food, and I'm just like, that is the cutest. Stop it. So yeah, I also want to say, like, it's actually one of the cuter things too that happens is how Excalibur gets its name. I'm just saying, like, the way the author decided to play on that idea, and Caleb the mouse and Excalibur the sword, like, it's cute. But yes, it is a trilogy. I only own the first book. I will be keeping this one within my King Arthur collection that I have, but I will be looking for the next 2 books because I do want to continue this. It was just so adorable. I loved it. And then the other 5-star book I have is The Remarkable Inventions of Walter Mortensen by Quinn Sosna Spear. This was heartbreaking, okay? This is not really about the inventions that Walter makes. It is more about the struggle between a mother and her son. And son is like, I want to be an inventor. I want to make big things. I want to go big, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And mom's like, no, inventing is dangerous. Inventing can kill. I can't lose you like I lost my husband. So it very much follows both the son and the mother from 2 different perspectives. And it's honestly another story that follows death. It deals with death in a very, very emotional way. I did a lot of crying while reading this one. I did a lot of crying in this one. Like, the ending is the most emotional part because it talks about, like, obviously we have the death of the father, but then another death does happen in the story, and it's one that I think is very vital for kids to read about. I'm not the kind of person where I think we need to shield children from death in general. I think that does them a huge disservice, and I think it's better to explain to them and make them aware that death happens and help them learn how to process and work through that kind of thing. So I think this is a great book for helping with that, because it does cover death in two different ways. But I also just like the fact that the author focused on not making the mother disappear from the story after Walter left home. Like, the mother still has a very big part in this story, and it's her struggle of trying to be like, I want to protect my kid, but I also do want him to be happy, but I want to protect him. And her trying to come to terms with she can't always protect him the way that she wants to protect him, kind of thing. You know, and then Walter having to come to his decisions on, like, was running away the right choice, and was ignoring his mother the right choice, and then learning how to process death and process grief and everything like that. So it is a very beautiful story. There is some inventing going on, but like I said, the story really isn't about the inventions. It's so much more than that, but absolutely gorgeous, beautiful story. And the last book that I read was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is an adult book, and I read this because 3 of my coworkers have read it, and they were like, hey, we want you to read this too. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? I gave it 3 stars due to the simple fact that, 1, I figured out the twist ending like 2 chapters before it happened. I was a little annoyed with myself for that. And then I honestly found a lot of the writing to be extremely, extremely dry, which made it, like, the thing that made it easy to read was the chapters were each like 3 pages long. So you were able to get through the chapters quickly. But at the same time, some of the chapters just felt like they dragged for being only 3 pages because the writing was so dry. And at times I was just like, bro, I don't care about this, like, what's happening in this moment. I don't care. Ultimately, those scenes do, like, end up having a purpose, like, when you get to the end of the story. But I was just kind of like, in the moment, I was like, bro, could you have made this any drier? Like, the Sahara Desert is in here right now. And then the biggest thing was the reason for why she was silent. That was the biggest letdown for the entire book. Like, I was just kind of like, you made me read this many pages to tell me that's what you could come up with? I was very disappointed with that. And it's so funny, when I'm talking with my coworkers, they were all disappointed with that part too. For them, the part that stood out was the twist, because none of them had figured out the twist. But because I had figured it out, I was like, I figured it out before it happened. And they were like, no. And I was like, I know, guys. Like, I didn't mean to. I just do a lot of reading. So, like, I see the stuff unfold because I pay so much attention. So, yeah. 3 stars. Not a terrible book. Not the greatest book either. So, you know, it's just kind of like right there in the middle. Just, I read it, you know. It was enjoyable for what it was. So that is everything that I read. I will say I did start 2 more books. I just haven't finished them, and I won't finish them by the end of this week. If We Were Giants by Dave Matthews and Cleet Barrett Smith. And yes, that is Dave Matthews from the Dave Matthews Band. I started this one, and then I started the Verdigris Pawn, because I'm listening to the audiobook, which this is not Verdigris, it's Verdigris. Learned something new with that, by Alyssa Wishingrad. So I'm listening to I'm listening to this one and reading this one. I was hoping to get them done by the end of the month, or at least before I film this video, but that did not happen, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. So those will just be carried over into next month, and I'll finish those up there. And yeah, so that is everything that happened in March. Not a bad reading month. I like to say it's a win, considering I didn't DNF anything and I didn't give anything a 1 star. So yeah, pretty decent month. I am still very proud of myself for finishing the middle grade March prompts and being able to get that all under control. So very happy about that. Yeah, so Next month, I don't know what I'm reading yet. I don't know how I'm going to handle that. So, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So, yeah, if you guys made it this far, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of those great things. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.